Welcome to Bedcrime Stories podcast. I'm your host, T. If you like all things true crime, if you like it delivered in a peaceful, tranquil manner, if you like it clear and concise without drama, then I highly recommend you subscribe. And if you like what you hear, please smash the like button. It's a free way you can help. And now, without further ado, let's dig in. This little cutie, 15-year-old Sebastian Rogers, remains missing. He's been gone for 3 months. And unfortunately, when you are living in a home where there have been multiple Child Protective Services calls and reports, people are going to start looking at that home and the people who live in it. That's unfortunate because it stirred up so much drama in this case where we are losing track of the goal, and that is finding Sebastian. But the CPS reports cannot be ignored. Yesterday, Sunday, there was a vigil for Sebastian Rogers at Beach High School. There were a lot of beautiful photos displayed of Sebastian. It appeared to be a beautiful and heartwarming event. Seth Rogers was there. Katie and Chris Proudfoot were not. That's not a surprise. Maybe they were worried that they would get disrespected there. But honestly, I think if they showed up, I think people would be supportive. A lot of people turned out to remember Sebastian, even if Katie and Chris didn't. YouTuber Pascal was there. I said Terri Lynn already was there, and T-Rev also. Say what you will about Seth Rogers, it's clear that he loves his son. He's fighting to bring him home. He's showing up, and he's giving it his all. What more can anyone expect from him? Now, Sebastian's stepfather, Chris Proudfoot, was on a channel Saturday night for a 4-hour-plus show. I don't think he was on the panel for the whole show. One of the things that he was asked was if his mother was out and about in Hendersonville on the morning that Sebastian went missing. Eventually, Chris replied that he did call his mother Kathy Bowersox that morning so she could go be with Katie Proudfoot, because of course Chris was away in Memphis working, and it's a 3-hour drive home. Well, that's the first time I've heard Chris admit that his mother was with Katie that morning. When asked if he thought Seth could be responsible for Sebastian's disappearance, Chris emphatically said no, and he added that Seth was at work. I hope this helps shut down chatter about Seth possibly being involved. Even Chris Proudfoot says that Seth could not be involved. Now, the Chris Proudfoot that turned up for this show on Saturday was a very different Chris Proudfoot to the one that we heard on the call with the private investigator, Heather Cohen. Could Chris be learning from the criticism that he's received over his past YouTube appearances? Chris didn't threaten or insult Seth or the private investigator Chloe on this show on Saturday. But of course, he was on a panel where people celebrate him. They tell him that they really respect him. They tell him what a good stepfather he was. They tell him what a wonderful husband he is because he's so protective of Katie. Personally, I do think that he's not a changed man. I think he's simply adapting based on what he's heard about himself. And again, there was no criticism of him on this show. I will say it was hard for me to listen to this show because there was a lady on the panel telling him what a great father he is, how much she admires him and Katie. That woman clearly either doesn't believe Chris's ex, Nina Gomez, about what she experienced when married to him. This lady also perhaps was not offended by Chris Proudfoot's very offensive language on that call with Heather Cohen. And what was really interesting is that at one point, Chris talked about how little kid gamers sometimes show up, when people are gaming and they use the most offensive language. And I thought that was pretty interesting, given the language he used in the call with Heather Cohen. It doesn't get any more offensive than the language he used. So it was sort of interesting to see him criticizing these kids and saying, oh, you can't imagine the foul language they use. Oh, yes, we can. Yes, we can, Chris. In fact, you could teach one of those master classes on using foul language. In other news on the case, there's more drama behind the scenes. Gray Hughes Investigates apparently showed up into Smiley Stories World chat, or her comments rather. Miley wrote in her community post, "Let me just leave this here for this asswipe. YouTube does not like that word. Who approves of all abuse and will let me leave it here. Stay out of my comments, Gray." And here's a separate note that she wrote to Gray. "Actually, it is what it is, man. Give me a break, dude. I don't question you or your methods. In fact, I don't even think of you at all. Yet, here you are, all in my comments. But let me explain this to you, or try to. I had an entire show. I was live, not even about any missing kids. I was catfished into believing it was Tony Mathis and Seth. Oops, my bad. I did not check to see if it was the real Tony. But whoever tried to catfish me, and all the real bad people that always try to F with me, and I know most are friends of yours, you should be proud. Anyway, sir, it backfired on them. I didn't ask for any of this. I was minding my own business. Trevor didn't ask for any of this, nor did Seth or Sebastian. Not that it matters, sir, but since you're over here asking, neither did Chris or Katie, to be fair, because I can be a fair person, Gray Hughes. I hope that cleared it up for you, because if it did not, let me say it was crystal clear. It did not help. Duh." Gray Hughes has been a strong supporter of Chris and Katie Proudfoot, and a lot of people are upset about that. They can't understand why he has so much love for Chris and Katie when they aren't searching for Sebastian. I think Gray Hughes is trying to be balanced and show both sides. The police haven't said that there is any foul play involved, but of course we all have our own feelings about that. By the way, I forgot to tell you that Chris Proudfoot also said that all search dogs were inside his home, and that's why he doesn't see any point in allowing additional dogs, the ones from that Jules person, into his home. Sadly, Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, whom Seth named and is very proud to say that he named his son, is still missing. Please keep an eye out. Please do what you can to keep this story alive, and I'll see you next time on Bed Crime Stories.